Today we're going to be talking about sound effects. What are they trying to convey? What's their utility? How do we build them out and design them and get them implemented into the game? We'll actually focus on a particular sound effect and go through how we're designing that. And before we get into that, let's talk about why sound effects are important. I think the primary reason is it's one of the most efficient ways to convey or accent a player action that they're taking on the game. Helps drive the story forward, reassure the player that they're making the right or wrong moves. Take this example of Falcon ending the game in Super Smash Bros. I mean, come on, that's about as satisfying as it can possibly get. And in this example, I think the glue is the immersion. You want the player to be fully immersed and do everything you can possibly from an art, gameplay, mechanics, and sound design level to keep that attached. I think it's safe to say that most of us have a memorable sound effect that has stuck in our head to this day, even after years or decades of playing that particular game. For me, it can be some of the early Super Mario sound effects. And a lot of World of Warcraft sound effects for sure.
What the? Oh, Jesus, he summoned scorpions!
Hey, Stan, can I play with you guys?
Dad?
Yeah, I'm playing from the office.
Dad, get off our TeamSpeak line!
Be good. How are you?
And in these examples, or any example, if you mute that sound effect or mute the soundtrack, you can see how quickly awkward it becomes as the player. It just feels like there's something missing, something detached. And so with game design, that's why I want to spend a lot of time mapping out what are all the actions that the player, you, is taking as you're playing the game and layering sound on top of that. So this is a spreadsheet of all the sound effects or soundtracks that are currently in Dracs After Dusk or plan to be in there. As you can see, this list quickly becomes quite extensive, so organization becomes really helpful just to bucket different types of sound effects, keep track of the file names, and the leveling in terms of how loud they are. The one that we're going to be focusing on today is this vampire sound effect where after the dusk phase is complete and dawn arrives and the sun's rising, vampires start to burn, as any vampire would. And so we're going to take what's being conveyed through the art and animation and continue to layer that with the sound. What are some different types of sounds that we want to incorporate? I want there to be some fire or burning sounds, some screeching. And as you can see, most of the time, this mechanic's going to be running when there's multiple vampires. So I want the sound to be very wide and capturing the whole screen. Let's go over to FL Studio and start to think about how we want to do this.
First thing I want to do is understand the timing of how long the animation is. So within FL, there's this plugin called Fruity Video Player, where you can sync up the video to your DAW. So let's just play this effect a few times. Okay, just shy of 2.5 seconds. This is when the last vampire puddle starts to disappear. We want the sounds to fade and end around that 2.5 second mark. For the sound selection, I thought I would just start with my own voice, and after a couple takes, this is what I got. Then I use this pitch altering plugin to play around with the pitch of my voice. And then finally threw some reverb on that. Then I wanted to layer my voice with a couple other creature sounds that I found through Soundly, Splice, and a couple of my own sound libraries. So we have this creature scream sound, this low screech right here, a high screech here. Put all of that together. For the start of the sound effect, I wanted to have a couple layers for the fire burning. Here's a fire ignition sound, some sizzle, and then a swoop. So all those sounds together to indicate that the vampire's catching on fire. Last two sounds I wanted in there was some sort of wing flapping sound to indicate that the vampires are maybe trying to escape the dawn. So we have this. And then for the vampire melting into a puddle on the ground, I wanted to have this goopy puddle sound here. Now that we've committed to our sound choices, we need to start to put some parameters in for automating the volume and the panning. We want these to fade in and then fade out around the 2.5 second mark, so there's no awkward cutoff. Within FL Studio, you can actually draw in those automations, so I did that for each one. And then for panning the sound left to right, I took couple of the screeches and the bats flapping You can hear those moving left to right if you have headphones on. After taking some time to level and mix everything together, here's what we got so far. Last thing I want to do is add some stereo imaging. That way it sounds wider when you're playing the game. I also like to do a loudness check in the end. Most of our sound effects that are currently in the game right now are hovering around 28 to 30 loops. So we want to try and keep it consistent with that too. We're just coming in around 29 to 30 here. All right, I think this is sounding pretty good. So we're going to ship this over to the guys so that they can get it coded into the game and we can see how it sits behind the animation. All right, that's working pretty well. We're going to keep that. It's aligned with the timing of the animation. It's not too loud, it's leveled, and it helps drive forward what we're trying to indicate to the player, which is, hey, the vampires are burning here. So if you made it this far, very much appreciated. If you haven't already, feel free to hit that like, subscribe button. It really does help out our small channel here, and we'd love to keep the videos rolling. Feel free to drop in the comment section if you have a really memorable sound effect that has stayed with you to this day. I really need to get back to work here to build out the rest of these sound effects. We will catch you on the next video here. Thanks for tuning in.